Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had the first round of the playoffs against the Nashville Predators, and unfortunately we lost, but it was still a pretty interesting series, I'd say. For the most part, if we go back here, you can see it went all the way to Game 7, and Game 7 was probably one of the craziest sim games I've ever seen, as we lost that one in overtime 9-8. We jumped in later in the game, and it was really back and forth at that point. Like, I didn't even have any idea on who was going to end up winning, because we ended up tying it up like late in like the last minute to make it 8-8. Then we ended up losing in overtime, but it was like back and forth for a good part of that game. But in general, I was pretty impressed with how our offense was in that first round. Obviously, the goaltending and defensive play definitely needed to be a lot better, but it was still a really fun series regardless, even though we technically lost. Hopefully, we could have a bit of a better run in these next few years, obviously, because we are starting to have guys start to drop off a little bit, I guess, due to age and all that. Like, you can see Staubitz is 35, so this might be his last season coming up. We have Verstalainen, who's 34, Narena's 34. And then there's a chance guys like Kohlers and Bell could also potentially retire before the end of the series, but these guys probably are not as likely to retire soon. But we definitely got to find a way to try and win another Stanley Cup if we can. If we don't win another Stanley Cup, it's not the end of the world, because at least these guys have cups. But it's now kind of weird to see that Kohlers is our top-rated player on this roster, considering Ristolainen and Staubitz have usually been those type of guys. But hopefully we have another good run ahead of us at some point. Let's hopefully have also a solid offseason and maintain this team, and hopefully we could get back to that first round again at least next year, and hopefully beyond that too. But anyways, before we get into the draft and off season, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will get into this off season and see if we can maintain this roster. So the first two comments are from Michael Dose. The first one says, comment of the series, it's Will Smith with the slap to the face. And yeah, I when that came to my head when Will Smith scored a goal, I was just like, you know, that might be kind of funny to say. So I had to kind of throw out some sort of a joke, because most of my jokes don't really land that well. I think that one landed pretty decently. Michael also says, Marshall Mathers, Eminem might have been better in goals. So he's just basically shouting out Mathers because he's shouting out Eminem because of the fact that Mathers was in that, and Mathers was absolutely dreadful in the playoff experience that he had. Why is this flashing like this? I honestly have no idea. And it's still flashing like this. Okay, I maybe should just get off the screen. Okay, that's kind of strange. Can I go back now? Nope, still flashing. Okay, that's very strange. I don't know why it's flashing like that. Maybe if I just go to the actual stats screen, I could take a look at it instead. I definitely want to show you guys what I mean by his stat line, but if it's going to flash like that, I probably shouldn't. Let's see here. Go to goalies. Mathers, there you go. So he was 1-0-2, so he lost 2 games in overtime, didn't lose in a single game in regulation, but that last game, of course, completely ruined his save percentage in goals against, considering he allowed those 9 goals in, I think it was way less shots than we had too, which is pretty insane. Like, we had like 55 shots, they had like 30 something, and they scored somehow 9 goals. So unfortunately for Mathers, doesn't seem like he's going to be a good playoff goaltender, but likely we will try and hold on to him, so that way we have like a depth goaltender going into next season in case of any injuries to Gionta and such like that again. The next comment is from Garage TV, who says, Hunwick had 2 goals in Game 7 and was way more noticeable than Nornan. Maybe move the defense around, but all overall great. Big hits delivered all over the ice. One last thing, scheme fit the top 6 and top 2 Ds. So he's basically saying to make some adjustments to our defensive core in terms of who's in what line. Definitely we could do go ahead and probably move Hunwick up and stuff like that because of how he played, obviously. And we could kind of just rework the defensive core in terms of how everybody's like situated with their pairings and all that. And then he said, though, the scheme fit the top 6 and the top 2 defensive pairing. So obviously we'll look into doing that when we get to the season and till the first of the month, I guess you said that we do those at. So we'll try and get everybody scheme fitted potentially at that point in time. We also could look for a different coach potentially this offseason, but I'm not too sure if that's the direction we want to go, because the current coach has been, I'd say, a pretty decent fit here. But obviously we are regressing a little bit. He's not as good of a team fit as he used to be. So I don't know if I want to just necessarily keep him on because he's A+ or what, but we might just hold on to him and see if he could end up making our team similarly better, because we had a really good regular season, obviously, but the playoffs, it just kind of fell apart a little bit. Next comments from Saurataku, who says, that was something. I'd say your contention window is open for 1, maybe 2 more seasons. Since Kim only wants a 1-year deal, give it to him. See if Dunham wants a long-term extension. The draft doesn't much matter at this point, which is true. So, yeah, we could definitely look into trying to get Dunham on a long-term extension if we go actually to the contract situation right now. Yeah, Rick Kim on a 1-year deal doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. I don't know if we should be offering him the deal right now or if we should wait till it's actually into the re-sign stage portion of this. Maybe I'll wait till the re-sign stage, but it sees if you go to here, he wants a 1-year deal, but we should be able to drop this down quite a bit, which is kind of nice, just because of the fact that he's got good organizational interest. I think I'm going to wait till we get to the re-sign stage, just because he could drop this asking price even more so, because he had definitely a really down year, so I'm going to wait till then. But obviously him and like guys like Cashman and stuff like that, like we have a lot of UFAs this offseason, so it might be a little bit more pricier than in years past. And the last and final comment is from Andy, who says, what a Game 7. And yeah, that Game 7 was absolute bonkers. Like I said, I could not really predict who was going to win that game, just because like we were up, I think it was, what was it, 8-7. Then they went up 9-8, and then we scored late, or not, it was 9-8, wait. We went up like 7, wait, I'm trying to remember what the score was. I don't think I could go back to the box scores at this point, can I? Oh, I can. Okay. Let's see. We have to go back to that game, just because I don't really remember. I do remember, but I don't remember, you know. So if we go back to April and we go back to near the end of this, let's actually, can I just make this playoff only? No, I don't think I can. Well, that's good. I can still go back to these box scores. Let's see. Where was that last game? 6-3. It's pretty close. Oh, there you go. Okay, so yeah, this is the game, and it was pretty damn intense. You could see 1-1 after 1, so not really high scoring at that point. Then all of a sudden it was 3-3 going into the third period. Well, that third period they went up 5-3. We made it 5-4. They went up 6-4. We made it 7-4. 7-6, 7-5, 7-6, I think. Anyways, then they made it 8-7. Then we made it 8-8, and then we lost 9-8. So a lot of goals, 10 goals in that third period combined. Probably one of the craziest games we've seen, other than like also recently my Islanders episode. There was 17 goals in that game, so there's been a lot of goal scoring in my franchise modes as of late, but hopefully we could be a bit better of a defensive team if we get back to the playoffs again next season. So with that said, I think we'll get into this draft and see what we could snag up here. Like Saurataku was mentioning, this draft doesn't matter too much because we're kind of at the stage where a lot of these prospects might not make it before the series ends anyways, but obviously we're still going to be looking to hopefully have some decent prospects added to our prospect pool. So let's take a look at this year's top 5, which is the Rangers, the Sharks, the Sabres, Florida, and Dallas. All right. So who is this year's first overall pick headed to the Rangers? McCutcheon. What's your first name? McCutcheon? Larry McCutcheon. Right wing, left wing. He's a playmaker, which is kind of interesting. Probably could play down the middle as well. And he does have spinorama, so that's your first overall selection. San Jose at number 2 is going to select Morrison, who is an 82 overall medium elite sniper. He also has spinorama, which is kind of weird, and also all alone. So Junior Morrison off the board. It's kind of interesting that they both have spinorama though. So is all these guys just really crazy at deking or what? Like, is this a deking heavy draft? Buffalo 3 is going to select Markkanen, who is an 82 overall power forward. He has It's Tricky, so it seems like a lot of these guys are good at like skilled plays. Like, they must all have high deking levels, right? Let's see, where is the deking on here? 85 deking. That's not too bad. The other guy was 87, and the first overall pick, actually no, that was the first overall pick. This guy had 85 as well, so they both have 85 and an 87. So seems like all 3 of these guys could probably just dangle in a full phone booth, so to speak, which is interesting. All right, Florida at 4 selects Ritu, 81 overall playmaker, no X factors for him. He also actually has pretty good deking, but no X factors about it. So there is Ross Ritu going to Florida. And the final pick in the top 5, the Dallas Stars select Bentley. Wow, that's actually a really good steal. I didn't expect him to be an 83. That guy's literally as good as the first overall selection. So Dallas might have just got themselves the best steal that they possibly could have got in Bentley. He has shock and awe. So I guess he's kind of good at deking as well, 87 in that area. All right. Or he listed as a second line forward as an 83 as well, which is kind of insane. So that's a pretty solid top 5. All those guys probably could have been first overall picks in a draft. So maybe we'll be able to find somebody decent at 29, maybe not. But it doesn't look like a super strong draft class other than that first bit. Oh, man, we just missed out on a low lead. I didn't even know about this guy, I don't think. But Alexander Galiev going to Seattle. That's a really nice steal for the Kraken. That would have been nice because that guy probably could have made it before the end of the series for our roster. But unfortunately, he goes one spot above our pick. Any other crazy steals in his first round? There's Maloney. That's a fantastic steal for Chicago. At 24, Dan Maloney. Literally sounds like a player from back in the 1980s or something like that. Like Don Maloney, I think there used to be a player named Don Maloney. That's a really good pick, though. Some top 6 forwards, as you'd expect to see. And the rest of this is pretty basic. But, yeah, this looks like a pretty damn good draft. Like, even 10th overall is getting 77 top 4s and all that. So, yeah, this is a pretty good draft. 81 overall top 6 forward in Hedstrom. That's a really good one for the Sens. Robert Hedstrom. All right. Yeah, this is a solid draft class at the beginning, at least. It's definitely going to drop off in quality soon, though. But like I said, I honestly have no idea what we're going to draft with these selections. We did not even pin anybody? Yeah, we didn't even pin anybody, so we are probably not going to get anything super good with our selection, likely. There are some guys that are medium elites, maybe. There's a potential low elite, but he's not supposed to go for a while. We're just going to have to look at these guys and look at their attributes and see if they're interesting or not. So there's Matt Sundin, the defenseman. That's actually kind of hilarious. I didn't even realize this in last episode. Has a weakness in character. Actually, let me take a timeout because we're already at like a minute 33 and I have no idea on who I want to select with this first pick. All right. Let's see now. Let's look a little bit more in depth at these guys. So Paco, CU doesn't look the best. Hayes doesn't look the best. Keegan Hay looks okay, but he's not great. Ooh, Jay Newberry. Jay Newberry, that's what I want to see. So Jay Newberry is probably a pretty decent player. There's no guarantee on his potential even anyways, but yeah, he looks the best for sure in terms of individual attributes. And then there's also DeAndre Patterson, who looks pretty good in terms of attributes, so maybe 1 year out. Let's pin him a 2 for a second. And then below Patterson is Stanton, who also looks decent. All right, we definitely have some options now here with our first round selection at least. But I think I'm going to go for that forward probably. There's some pretty decent players actually still listed, looks like. But we don't have any confirmation on their potentials or anything, so let's look at the guys that I've just pinned and see who I would take. I probably would take the forward, I'm guessing, but let's take a look at these guys. So Stanton's 1 year out guaranteed. You have Newberry, who's 1 year out guaranteed, and then Patterson, who's 1 year out guaranteed. So they're all, or not guaranteed, but almost guaranteed. So these guys are all probably pretty close in attributes, but you look at this, Newberry looks pretty damn good, no real weakness. Patterson has a bit of a weakness with skating. And then Stanton has a weakness in defensive play, potentially. So Stanton's probably an offensive defenseman. Patterson probably is a two-way, as it mentions. And then Newberry, honestly, could be anything almost. He could be a sniper, but I would assume he's a sniper based on his goal-scoring strength. So I think I'm going to go with Newberry with this selection. I just feel like I don't really want one of those defensemen because they're not right-handed. So let's take Jay Newberry with our first round selection. And let's hope that he's a low elite that's a high overall. And he's a medium 6, 74 overall. So medium 6 is not terrible, obviously. 74 overall is a pretty good starting point. He is a two-way forward, which is not exactly what I was hoping for. But he does already have NHL-ready shot, which is nice. No real weakness. Like, he also has okay face-off stats. So might be able to be a center for us at some point in time as well. But he's not NHL ready yet. We'll probably have him signed into the NHL in like 2 seasons if he's ready to make that jump yet. So let's take a look at those other selections after. Pick Paco, medium 6. Obviously wasn't going to take Paco anyways. Hayes, a medium 6. Minnesota, take CU, who's a medium 9. And Detroit with that last pick in that first round. Wish it doesn't go always to the second round immediately. But let's see if they grabbed one of those guys we were looking at. No. They got Pellick, who's a medium 9. Okay. Let's simulate to our next pick at 62. See what went beforehand. Medium elite right wing playmaker and Kerman. That's a great steal for Carolina near the end of the second round. Anything else interesting in the second round so far? A lot of medium 9s and medium 6s, which is not crazy, of course. There's some medium 6s going earlier on, medium 4s as well. Stanton was a medium 4, 71 overall offensive defenseman. That's kind of what we were expecting to be like as an offensive defenseman. He goes to the Islanders. And then Patterson was also an offensive defenseman, actually, 71 overall too. So they were the exact same type of thing. All right. And there's Matt Sundin, who is a medium 6. All right. So with that said, let's make our next selection here in the second round. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get much else other than that. There is a couple gems, but they're low 4s and low 6s, so it's like I don't know if I would want to take them. But since they're gems, maybe they would actually pan out to being something. I think I might actually take a chance on the Italian defenseman, Alvin Johnson. You got to say it like this, Alvin Johnson, since he's Italian, right? Oh, man. Maybe I'll take Alvin Johnson. I know he's a low 4, but he is a gem. Maybe he pans out. He is a right D. There's also Gonchar, who's kind of intriguing too. Might be a low elite, but no guarantees on that. He could end up being like a medium 6. Jelena could be a low elite as well. Yeah, this draft class is pretty shit, to be honest, though. Like, low 6s being listed as gems is not a great thing. You know what? I think I'm just going to go with the low 4. I know low 4s don't necessarily pan out, but this guy probably can just because he's a second rounder. Maybe he surprises us. After all, Moreno was a low 4 as well at one point, I'm pretty sure. So, Alvin Johnson, we're going to take him. I just don't know on anybody else. So, he's a 65 overall. See, that's a pretty damn good starting point for a low 4. And the fact that he's only 18, this guy could definitely develop into being a defenseman for us, at least at the AHL level. At most, he could be maybe a top 6 defenseman in the NHL or a top 4 defenseman. But definitely going to take him a while to grow. But I still don't mind that selection because of his overall starting point. Let's simulate to 95. See if there's any steals after that selection. There's a medium elite goalie that just went to Seattle. Anything else intriguing? Medium starter and Pollock. Yeah, this draft class, to be honest, is probably one of the worst ones we've seen. There is some medium 9s that are still high overall, which is nice, but it's not really the best potentials out there. Like, it seems like it's got a good overall basis for this draft class, but not a good potential range. Let's see what went after our last selection here. Low 4. There's Gonchar. He was a low 4 as well. I expected that. Same as Jelena. Yeah, it seems like it's good starting overalls for a lot of these guys. Like, a lot of them are in their 60 overall plus range, but they just don't got the potential. I might take a chance here on Cogliano here just because he could be a medium elite guy. He's 3 bars medium elite. We might as well take a chance on him, right? Because it's either that or we go with like a low 9 or a medium 6 or somebody that's not guaranteed medium elite. Yeah, I guess we'll go with Cogliano even though he's 19 years old at this point. So, Quinn Cogliano, welcome aboard. And he is a medium elite grinder, 60 overall. That's actually a pretty good steal. I was hoping he'd be medium elite. I didn't know he was going to be a grinder, but I will definitely take that. 60 at 19 is an okay starting point. Obviously, you don't know if he's going to really pan out much at the NHL level, but maybe becomes a decent bottom 6 forward for us before the series ends because obviously, being a medium elite, he could get a lot of growth within one season. So, I will definitely take that. Let's simulate to our next selection and see what else we could snag up here. See if there's anything interesting. This guy's guaranteed medium 6. With all the medium 9s that have went so far in this draft class, we could definitely just go for Peluso because of his, he's going to have the best potential here probably. He's probably definitely not going to make it being a medium 6 in round 4/5. But, yeah, he can play right wing and left wing, which is kind of nice. So, yeah, let's go with Darcy Peluso here, who is a guaranteed playmaker. 51 overall, yeah, very low starting point for a top 6, but does have potential to become something. So, never say that he's not going to make it when he could potentially make it randomly out of nowhere. So, let's simulate to round 5 now. See if we could find any other steals here late in this draft. But, in general, this draft class has been kind of weird. So, Nelson Gorin might be interesting. Not too sure. There's some low 7th going at this point in a draft, so I don't feel like we're going to get really too much more at this point. There's also Kai Mackey. Might be a little elite. Obviously, I'm not looking at these guys' attributes yet. I'll look at them in the next round probably, but I'll probably go between one of those two guys just because they could be both low lead players. Let's see. So 1 C and 4 Ds. 3 Ds, a C. There's an E, though. I don't know who would be worse of these guys. Mackey's already 19, so you know what? I'm going to take a chance with Nelson Gorin here. So, Gorin, welcome aboard. Low top 9. Yikes. Kind of as I was expecting at this stage, though. Alright, our final 2 picks of this draft. We'll look at some player attributes to see if we could determine who's the best. This guy's listed as a gem. That means he's probably a low lead. He's 17 years old. Eli McKinnon. Alright, yeah, I think Eli McKinnon's got to be our pick, just because considering he's listed as a gem this late in the draft. We probably got to go with him. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Eli McKinnon with the second last selection. So Eli, welcome aboard. He is a low lead 51 overall. So if we didn't see that he was listed as a gem, I probably wouldn't have known for sure. But since he was listed as a gem, I figured he could be. So that's a nice little steal there. Don't know if he'll make it before the series ends, but that's still at least some good potential. And our last pick of this draft at 227. Can we find any crazy steal here? Let's see. Let's look through the guys' attributes here. See if there's anybody with any crazy good attributes for the stage. Which so far does not seem like it in the slightest. And now we're getting into bottom 6-4 territory. Might have to take a chance on one of these guys that could be elite here. Let's look at these 3 dudes. So Lewis, 1B. You have Connor Walchuk, who we were looking at, who's already 20. And then you also have Yves St. Pierre, who's already 20. We might as well just go for Tom Lewis, considering he's the youngest of the bunch. The 20-year-olds probably won't pan out. If Lewis does have low lead potential, at least he's 19 years old. He's not supposed to get drafted, that's the only thing. But I'm going to just take him because there's not really anybody else intriguing, it looks like. So, welcome aboard to Tom Lewis. Low bottom 6. Pretty trash, but I kind of expected it at this stage. But I'd say at least we got a pretty decent draft in the way. Like McKinnon and Cogliano, decent steals. Peluso could be a decent steal. He has the potential to become something decent for us. And then obviously our first round selection in Newbury was pretty solid. Johnston could be honestly pretty decent as a low 4. So I don't mind that draft. But obviously we don't know if those guys are even going to get to play for Albuquerque before we reach the end of this franchise mode. Alright, so now that that is done, let's advance on over to the re-sign stage. Obviously, this is going to be one of the most important parts. We do got to bring back our associate coach, so we will try and bring back Wharton if we can. Because we were a really good defensive team this season, so might be important to bring him back as the assistant coach for now. Obviously, we can make coaching adjustments next season if we need to, but for right now, I think we'll probably run the same coaching group. We also do need an associate coach in the AHL, so I got to make sure I hire one of those. Was this the GMO that I needed an SHL scout? I think it was, right? Yeah, I think it might have been. No, actually, no, it wasn't, because we're at 2020 scouts, so it definitely was my Islanders one that I needed an SHL one. But we do got to bring back these scouts, so let's get to those ones and re-sign them, because our scouts have done, I'd say, a pretty decent job building this team up at points in time. Obviously, some draft classes have been pretty trash, so it's nothing they could really do about it. But I'd say they've done a decent job at scouting for the most part. So we'll get Buse back. There was only 3 scouts to bring back, I think. I just don't remember who the other one was. It was Leroy. Right? Yep, Leroy. Okay. So that's the last one I think I need to bring back. Let's just double check, though, because I don't want to lose any of my scouts here. They all deserve to still be with this team next season, because they've helped us win Stanley Cups before. So, or one Stanley Cup, I should say. But there we go. Scouts are dealt with. Now we got this re-sign stage. All right. So the question now is, what about Rick Kim? Because Rick Kim's obviously the most important UFA. Him and Cashman probably. But do we have the money to afford all these guys back? I'm not too sure. We have $29 million, actually just under $30 million in cap space. At least we have a lot of RFAs that I could just qualify them. So we will qualify Doig. Comrie, I will qualify. Let's see. He wants probably a 2-way, right? He does want a 2-way for one more year. Then he becomes an RFA again. So you know what? Comrie, take that 2-way deal. We'll also give Ashton a 2-way deal. Just get some of these guys dealt with. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this team's looking like next season. Like, there's a good chance that we see some drop off from Ristolainen and from Staubitz in their overall rating, I'm guessing, before the season ends, which is going to be, or the season starts, and it's just going to be kind of not great, but it is what it is. Let's go 1-year deal instead on 209 if we can, just because I don't really want to give him multiple years at the moment. There we go. Goalies, Langlois will bring you back for the AHL. And then Mathers, obviously, like I said, I'll bring him back as a third-string goaltender. He does want a 2-year deal as a one-way contract, which is kind of eh. I would prefer to give him a 1-year, but a 2-year might be okay with me. Just because then we could run him as a third-string goalie for 2 years. So, I guess I'll give you $900,000 for 2 years there, Reed. So just take it. There you go. So Mathers is already dealt with. We got that qualified. Let's go to the bottom of this list here. Any prospect I would sign here. Stillman is a low 6s up to a 75. That's pretty decent. This guy actually could end up making the NHL team. So we'll definitely sign him up to his ELC. Hansen's also decent here as a low 6, a 71 at 20. We'll get a couple of these guys signed for the AHL, might as well. Reefer's a 68 at 20. We'll get him signed up too. Doughty is a low lead, 64 at 19. It's not great, but we'll sign him anyways. Low 4 and Young. I'm going to let go of him, I think. Wait. Maybe I'll free up some roster room and let go of some of these older dudes. Yeah, let's let go of Janicki for the time being. And then we could get in some younger defensemen in, just in case. Just in case. So we'll get Young signed and Lawson signed up too. That should be good. Alright, and then the AHL also needs some of these players back, maybe. We'll hold on to Peterson because I think we needed more forwards in the AHL. So let's just hold on to Peterson for the AHL. DeVoe, we'll sign you back up because we do need to make sure we have enough defensemen in the minors. Ackerstrom wants two-way deal, so that's good that Ackerstrom's not going to be too expensive. Bure, he'll come back again just because you could be a leader down there in the AHL. Alright, this is actually not that bad. And somehow we went up to $30 million in cap space after I re-signed guys. I thought I was below $30 million, so I don't know how that works. But Harakala is definitely going to be gone, though, I think, because we're also going to have 4 goalies that are NHL ready. So let's give a shout out to Ville Harakala, who's been a pretty damn solid backup goaltender. And definitely could be a good goaltender going forward. He was actually good in the playoffs again this year, too. But we do have too much goaltenders because Malkin's going to be the backup fully next season. Mathers is going to be the third string. So let's let Harakala walk. He's been a good goaltender, but we got to make that decision here. Aside from that, we have a bunch of other UFAs to bring back. Let's start off with Rick Kim because he's the big guy here. Him and Cashman. Okay, so Rick Kim's asking price just jumped up a lot. His organizational interest is way down too. Damn. So I don't have any leeway with this. I probably should have offered him that 1 year that he was looking for, but I thought it would have changed after his last season. 10.15 is not astronomically bad, but the thing is, Staubitz and Ristolainen both would end before that contract would end. And if they're not retired, I would literally hate myself to lose them to free agency. So we have to probably find a way to make this into a 1-year deal if we can with Rick Kim. Now, we could afford to lose Rick Kim potentially too, though. Because hypothetically, if we lost him, Dunham could play on that right side instead of Kim. And then we just have to run Peterson down the middle still. We'd have to probably move Delisle over to that second line left wing. So our left wing gets a bit weaker, hypothetically, if we play Dunham as a right winger like he's supposed to. But that honestly might be the only option we have to do here. Cashman as a third line center is something I would really like to hold on to, but is he going to be too expensive? 6x6. He does actually have a lot more organizational interest. Like I said, I'm only worried about the cap space in the future, though, because of Ristolainen and Staubitz. Like, if those guys don't retire and are demanding like $15 million, I want to have that cap space. So I'm kind of in a really bad spot here right now. Mahalik, let's see what you want for a contract. 2.275. What if I do a 1-year deal instead? You'd want closer to 3, which isn't too bad. Man, this is really not the situation I wanted to be in right now. We'll definitely bring back Malak on that 2-year deal at 1.25. That doesn't hurt us at all. Delisle. Ooh, that's also kind of expensive for Delisle. He does have the organizational interest, though, so I should be able to drop this down a substantial amount here. Let's do 4.2 for 3 years. I'll do that if you'll accept it. Oh boy. I think I could probably afford to get everybody back, but I'm also worried on the money situation just going forward. Rick Kim apparently doesn't want an extension either, which is not great. So if I don't give him what he's asking for, there's a chance he does not want it whatsoever. He might be okay with the 1 year based on this, but we'd have to give him more money. So I think I'm just going to give him a 1 year deal. We are going to have to pay him more money than we're going to be before. Yeah, who knows if he's going to even want this because of that organizational interest being low. 11.4 for a year. He's going to be like one of the highest paid players on this team, but it's only for 1 season. Like I said, I don't want to give him too much term because if Staubitz retires at the end of this upcoming season, then we'll have the cap space to easily re-sign him again after the season. But this is a lot of money for a guy that just had a really rough season. So let's just go for a 1 year deal, and hopefully he accepts that. Because, like I said, I would prefer him for 1 year rather than multiple years. Aside from that, we need to probably bring back Cashman, I think, because there's no way I could just let go of Cashman here. Because Risto, obviously, he could be retiring soon. Second line center would be Peterson. I don't know why he dropped down to an 83. I thought he was an 87. That's kind of strange. But Peterson's going to be a pending free agent at the end of next year, or at the end of this upcoming season. Cashman should be brought back. Heatley. There is Comrie who could make an argument to get into our lineup, but I do want to bring back Cashman if possible as well. I don't know about a 6-year deal at this stage in his career. If I did a 3-year deal and I went up a bit, what much would he want? Let's see. He'd want over $7 million for a 3-year deal. You know what? I think I could only give him maybe like a 2-year deal as well, just in case Ristolainen and stuff like that isn't retired by then. But that is going to be pretty pricey as well. But these guys are going to be on short-term deals. So 7.7 for 2 years for Cashman. We'll see if he accepts that as well. Trying to work within our cap situation a little bit here. And then Mahalik coming back, I would prefer maybe a 1 to 2 year deal as well. Just because of, like I said, the cap situation in the future. So we could probably give him like 2.725 for a year. And that might be okay. And then RFA, obviously Doig's going to get paid some money as well. So hopefully we have enough cap money after these guys sign. Let's see. Anybody reject on this team out of curiosity? Anybody reject? Cashman has rejected. Delisle is accepting. Mahalik accepts. And Rick Kim rejects. So that basically means our 2 top guys we want to bring back are still holding out. I don't really want to give Cashman too much term. He loves our organization, which is good, but I don't want to give him too much term. So that's why I was thinking of only giving him like a 2-year deal here. 3 years maybe could be okay, but at the same time, like I said, I don't know if Risto is going to be retired by then or not. And I don't want to give these guys too long-term deals, and then all of a sudden it's just like, you guys got to let go of now Ristolainen and Staubitz, but because those guys need to be here till the end, right? And that's what I'm more prioritizing. So let's go with 7.9 for 2 years for Cashman. A little bit more money than he was asking for before. And then Rick Kim didn't like a 1-year deal, but we got to give him a 1-year deal. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to sway him over just because of his organizational interest. So we might have to get this up to like over $12 million to basically bring him back. But the good thing is we have the cap space to sign him, but it's kind of pricey. It would be $19 million for these 2 guys. Around maybe. Let's do 12.5 for Kim for a year. And then he could hit the free agency if we don't have the cap space next year. But Doig would probably be relatively cheap. Yeah, we should be able to afford all these guys, I think, which is good. But I'm also kind of worried about the future a little bit with this roster. Cashman rejects again, apparently. Rick Kim is also rejected again, even though I upped the asking price on their things. Goddamn. This is going to be a tough negotiation process with these guys. Cashman's got to realize that he's not the top line center. And he needs to accept these contracts. He has the organizational interest, so I think I should be able to get him for it. We might have to give him literally $8 million, but let's get him done for 2 years. I really don't know who I'm going to lose next offseason because of these contracts, but hopefully Rick Kim coming off the board again will help us and stuff like that, but let's see. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Rick Kim for 1 year is not very friendly. This will cost us over $20 million, so we got to hope that Doig isn't too expensive, but let's go with 12.7. Honestly, don't even know at this point. But might as well just use all the cap we have left to re-sign these guys, basically. Okay, looks like we got Cashman to accept, which is good. So Cashman's on board. And Rick Kim rejects as well again. Okay, so we got Cashman back. That's good news, at least. But Rick Kim not wanting to come back. Like I said, I don't know if it's a huge issue or not. We have $18 million in cap space and contract room, so we probably should still try and re-sign him. But how much is Doig going to cost us? $2 million. It's pretty cheap, so we could definitely afford to give Rick Kim up to like $15 million if we want to for 1 season. The real question is, do we do it though? Because we have our centers, obviously. Left wingers, we have not the best left wing depth, obviously. Right wing depth, we probably would play Dunham as a left winger again if we could get Rick Kim back. And then we have Doig, Patrick. Man, our depth is kind of falling off a little bit. I think we got to honestly just play Rick Kim. Even though it's only for 1 year, he wants a multi-year deal, but I don't want to give him multiple years. He doesn't have good organizational interest, but we're going to give him like $14 million to stick around for 1 season. Just to basically solidify our team for 1 more year. And like I said, if he needs to leave to free agency next offseason, so be it. But we need to keep our window open. And if we let him go, our window might be closer to being closed than it is open. So let's give him a 1 year deal at $14 million. And then we should be able to easily get Doig back for what he's asking for, which is good. So will Rick Kim take $14 million to stay around for a year? He will, okay. Well, we overpaid maybe on Rick Kim, but we are right up against the cap. And we will have our entire team back, which is good. Let's just give Doig what he's asking for at this point, because I'm okay with it. So there you go, Doig. There's your $2 million. Let's advance a day. And he accepts as well. So we have everybody on board. We only lost Harakala, which is not a huge loss because we got a lot of goalies, but our team has been maintained at least for another season, which is good. Like I said, next season Malkin will be the backup. Mathers will be probably like bouncing around between being a depth goaltender, maybe a backup if there's injuries, stuff like that. But we should have another good team again next season. But obviously paying Rick Kim $14 million for a year, not exactly what I had in mind, but I could not go 3 years just because of those Ristolainen and Staubitz contracts. Because those guys, if they're not retired at that point, they could definitely be asking for a shit ton of money. So let's sim to free agency and take a look at the available coaches. Looks like our associate coach did not accept his contract, which is not great. So we will have to look for new associate coaches here. So let's go to that and see if we can find anything interesting that we want as our next associate coach, who could end up being our head coach too. Is there anybody with a really good fit? Radislav Bielis, 62%, is pretty intriguing. There's also Matt Duchene as an assistant coach. Matt Duchene's actually a pretty decent coach at this stage. He's also cheap too, which is kind of nice. His teaching grade's not very good, but good special teams, good offense, good solid defense. Coach influence is pretty good. Do I want Matt Duchene as an assistant coach or not? 51 years old. He's pretty young too. It's either him or that other 62% coach probably. Which that other 62% coach is also an offensive coach. He's only 45, this guy. Wow. Okay, this guy might be the better option considering he's only 45. You know what? Let's bring this guy in as an assistant. He is listed as a head coach, but I will try and get him in to join our coaching staff. We needed an associate? Yeah, associate. Okay, so NHL associate. We also need an AHL associate too if we can. But that's not super important, I don't think. But we'll try and see if we can find one as well down there. So AHL associate, let's see what we got here. Any good fits here? 32% was the highest I saw so far. That's probably going to be the best option. Is that 32%, which was Buzek, was it? Yeah, it was Buzek. So Buzek, does he have good teaching grades? Let's just make sure on that. Not the best teaching grades, but it is pretty much the highest in the AHL for associate coach. Wait, which Buzek was it? Was it this one? Yeah, okay, just because there's two of them. So Vojtek, we will bring you in as our AHL associate coach. We aren't going to bring in an AHL goalie coach yet, but I don't know if I will bring in one or not. All right, so there you go. Buzek, you should be on board. We should have our coaching staff dealt with. The real question now is there any former players in free agency that I might want to bring back? Like, we don't have a lot of cap space, but might as well take a look and see if there's any former options out there for us to bring in if we want to bring in more people. But Del Monte, damn, Del Monte's still kicking around. I forgot about Del Monte. Actually, is that our guy? No, it's not. Oh, Del Monte was a forward, right, on our team? This is a different Del Monte. I thought we had a Del Monte goalie, though, too. But this is a completely different one. Yeah, this one was in Vancouver. I thought there was a Del Monte on this team. Maybe I'm thinking about a different franchise mode. I honestly don't even know at this point. Apparently, Harakala does have interest from a team, which is interesting. We'll see where he signs, obviously, when we get to the start of the season. Just got to take a look and see what is out there. Any former players that we haven't seen in a few years? Not that I've seen so far, at least. Does not look like it. What about right wingers? Doig is back in free agency. Damn. Esteban Doig is trying to get paid the big bucks. So shout out to Doig. He has had, since he's left us, he had 3 years in Edmonton. Is actually pretty good in them, but never made the playoffs with the Oilers. So, yeah, Doig is looking decent. And he's wanting $11.85 million for 7 years. Does have one team interested too. So, we'll see where our former guy goes, potentially. If I remember about him. Or maybe I'll just wait until we maybe play him in the playoffs at some point. Anybody else that used to play with us did I recognize? Left wingers. Mark Dagg's back in free agency once again. He seems to be a free agent every year. Has played for 3 teams already since leaving us. Boston, Tampa, and New Jersey. Alright. Shout out to Mark Dagg. What else we got here? Any other former guys? Not that I could see. What about in centers? And there's Will Smith leaving the Nashville Predators after what he did to us in the playoffs. Jeez, over point per game in the playoffs and regular season. 2 Selke trophies. He's pretty damn good, but interesting. Okay, any centers that played with us? Not that I've seen. Huh, okay, so it doesn't seem like a lot of former players, so I guess we'll only take a look at where Harakala signed potentially when we get to the start of the season. But I think that's all we got to do before we get to the season. So let's simulate to next season. Get our lineup set up. Hopefully our lineup is looking pretty good. Belis is on board as the NHL associate coach, which is awesome. And Buzek's on board as the AHL associate coach. Nice. Let's hope that those coaches maybe could help out both teams. And like I said, that associate coach we brought him to the NHL could end up becoming our NHL head coach if he's a better fit potentially. So we'll see if that addresses anything that we needed to address this season. But now we have an offensive coach, a defensive coach, and I think a generalist. So we kind of have a good mix of different types of coaches on this team, which is nice. Hopefully that makes us well-rounded. All right, let's get this lineup set up for another season. Did we get any drop-off so far? Can't tell in terms of potential, but let's get the roster set up at least the way we want it to. So in terms of goaltenders, Gionta and Malkin's an 83. Damn. Malkin's still listed as a backup, but that's a really good start for that rookie. And we'll bring up Mathers as the third string, which means Langlaw will get to play with some generated guy that they sign us. But we have 3 goaltenders, which is nice. Defensively, we have Bell, Tulipov, Hutton, Norena, Hunwick, and Mahalik. We technically need a depth defenseman. Maybe I should just leave Mathers in the AHL to start off with. Because we do have multiple depth defenders. Sagan and DeVoe are actually listed as top 6 now, which is kind of weird. Segal's a depth defenseman. Ackerson's still depth. Carlotti's still a minor depth defenseman. You know what? Maybe I will send down Mathers for the time being, but we do have ourselves an extra goalie if we run into injuries, which is kind of nice. So defensively, we do need a depth defenseman. Who do I want as that depth defenseman? It's either going to be Segal or Ackerstrom. Ackerstrom has played the last few years as a depth defenseman. Segal is only 24. Not the best defensively. I kind of like Ackerstrom because of his defensive play. Like, he still has never been a minus player through both playoffs and regular season. So, I'm going to bring in Ackerstrom as that depth defenseman. So, we'll do that. Seguin and DeVoe could potentially come up at some point this season now, easily if we get into problems. So there's our defense. Norena has dropped down to an 82, so that's not ideal, but hopefully this isn't his last season coming up, which I think it could honestly be because he was a steal. I feel like he could retire early, but we'll find out obviously about that at the end of a couple episodes from now because I think we should be a playoff team. Right wing side of things, Stelwitz, Dunham, Doig, and Patrick. Dunham obviously will be playing on the left side of things. Rick Kim would be on the side instead. But Dunham's listed as a first-line right winger at this stage, which is absolutely insane. So we got to get Dunham locked up for sure. He's already generated 5 X Factors as well, which is pretty insane. So, yeah, Dunham definitely needs a big contract extension. So that's one player that's going to need a lot of money. What else we got here? Anybody in the system? Nobody in the system, really. Left wing side of things. Kolars, Delisle, Malak, Lambert. Looks fine to me. Zhitnik's not ready to go yet. That's fine. Centers, Ristolainen, Kim, Peterson, Cashman, Comrie, and Heatley. Comrie's listed as a 4th liner. We might have too much centers almost on board. Maybe I didn't need to bring back Cashman in a sense. But I mean, Rick Kim would be on the right wing. So Comrie and Heatley are both fighting for that 4th line spot. There's a chance we might have to send one of them down. Kopitz is also listed as a depth forward, which is interesting. He's only 22. So I probably want to use him as a depth forward. Ashton's already 23, listed as 77. Ooh, how the heck is Stillman listed as a 4th liner as a 76? Damn. Okay. Well, there's some interesting stuff here. Maybe I'd use Corso as a depth option and then have to send down Heatley. I'm not too sure, but we might have to scratch somebody that shouldn't be scratched. Because I think I might want to play Comrie this year, potentially. He is a playmaker, though, so him playing in the bottom 6 isn't ideal. We'll make some adjustments, but let's get to our lines and set them up and see if we could rework this a bit so everybody's getting good ice time. Alright, so obviously our top line is going to stay together. We're going to move Rick Kim to the right side, Dunham to the left side, and then down the middle is going to be Peterson on that 2nd line. Cashman on that 3rd line is going to be playing with Delisle and Doig, Malak, Comrie, and Patrick. I could scratch Patrick potentially, but he's listed as a 3rd line checking forward, so he probably should play. Malak's a 3rd line scoring forward, so he probably should play. Which leaves Heatley and Lambert as scratches. Lambert's okay to be scratched. Heatley is not okay to be scratched, really, but I could maybe flip-flop the 2 of those guys in next episode, like every 10 games. Maybe we do something like that. But I don't really want to send one down to the AHL. So we might honestly start with Comrie and then flip obviously to Heatley if Comrie's playing bad defensively, something like that. From a defensive standpoint, Bell and we'll go with Hunwick. We'll go with Norena and Tulipov. Actually, Hutton and Tulipov. Norena will get demoted down to that top 6 pairing, but he will get the play on the power play, obviously, because he's the offensive driver on that back end. Yeah, I think that should work. And yeah, Norena's potential is an exact top 6D, so he could be close to the end of his career. He's still listed as a top 4, but he should be okay because he is still on the 1st line power play, which is good. So that's probably how we set that up. Goalies Gionta and Malkin, that all looks good too. Let me just take a look at the special teams here, see how the chemistry looks. The chemistry, honestly, with this coach doesn't look the best, so we might honestly see if the other coaches are better options for our team. Yeah, it looks really good in terms of the penalty kill, but from an offensive standpoint, not so much. I can see why our penalty kill was good last season, though, for sure. I don't know why Peterson dropped off to an 83, though. He is a pending free agent, so there is a chance that Cashman replaces him because we might not be able to re-sign Peterson at the end of the season. Considering we want to give Dunham a big extension, I think there's a good chance that Peterson could be gone at the end of the season, which is not ideal, but it could be the case here. Yeah, it could end up being. All right, let me just make sure Cashman's on the power play as well here, because obviously if he's not getting power play time, he will probably complain. Yes, he's on the power play. Okay, that's good. That second unit has all forwards on it. I don't know if I like that, but that should be good. AHL, let me just make sure nobody scratched. That shouldn't be. Young should probably be in. 209, it doesn't matter much at this stage. Anybody I would take out of this defensive core, though? I'm interested to see if I could get this chemistry to be better. A little bit better there. Kavasha is not going to really pan out at this stage. Maybe if I take Kavasha out, it'd be okay. Let's get Young in a spot instead. Same chemistry. Goaltending, Mathers, obviously, like I said, we have him in case we need to. Yeah, the rest of this should be fine, though. But, yeah, Kopitz definitely could be in the NHL soon, too. Like, Kopitz could definitely replace like, we definitely don't need to bring back Pearson at the end of the season. Because Cashman's second-line center. Comrie could be a third-line center. Heatley might be gone. And then we could easily bring up Kopitz from the AHL next season. So we definitely probably will end up losing some people in these next few seasons, but that's all right. All right, so now that that is done, let's take a look and see if that other coach fits us better, or what these coaches look like in terms of scheme fit. And then we have our coaches optimized as well. And then we're probably ready to end this episode at that point, I would assume. Let's see, Baines has been our head coach for a while at this point. He is a 57. I think his team fit is getting worse. Let's demote him for a second here. Belis, who was just brought in, is a 66. Well, Radislav Belis is maybe that guy. Does work well with the defenders, especially, looks like, as an offensive coach. We'll look at the chemistry and see how it looks on paper, but Belis looks like he could be that guy for sure. And then Nielsen. Let's see, Nielsen, 65. Nielsen's actually pretty good, too. But, yeah, I think it's got to be Belis. We'll at least test it out for a time being. And then we'll probably move Nielsen to associate. And Baines, who was our head coach, will be the assistant. Let's take a look and see what the lines look like in terms of chemistry now with Belis. See if it improves anything a lot. All right, so the chemistry 5-on-5, I mean, it isn't really drastically improved. It's still okay, though. Defensively, looks way better. Wow. I'm surprised. It's a forward coach, and he's got a great fit on the defensive pairings. Like, look at this. Every defender has multiple greens except for the top 6 pairing. So we don't even need to scheme fit our defensive at this point because we have a coach that works better. Now, we would need to scheme fit our top 6 still with this coach. But it looks good. Looks really good. What about the power play and special teams? That looks even. That's still not that great of a unit. I think it's probably because it's too much forwards on it. Let's take Malak off this unit and give a defenseman some power play time like Tulipov. Might as well. That makes it a -2. That's not as bad, I guess. 4-man units still don't have the best chemistry either. And I don't know if I really care too much about that. Penalty kill, +2, 0 on this one. 0 on this one. I think we got to just keep this coach. Considering he's the best fit for the team. Yeah, I think that works well. The nice thing about having Dunham growing so much is if Stelwitz does decide to call quits at the end of the season, we have a right winger that could literally replace him on that top line. So Stelwitz is still top 6 and Risto is still top 6. So I honestly don't know if they'll retire at the end of the season, but they could come close. Because Risto is now an 88, which is pretty insane. Because he was like a 95 a few years ago, and Stelwitz still rocking that 90. All right. Is there anything else I want to take a look at before we end this episode? I'm trying to think. I don't think there is. Oh, yeah, we wanted to take a look at where Harakala signed. I guess that's the last thing I wanted to take a look at. Because I knew there was one thing, but I could not remember what. So where did Harakala sign? And also we'll take a look at where Doig signed, even though Doig has been gone from us for a few years at this point. I do want to see how much he got paid, so. But Harakala, let's see. Harakala, we misspelled his last name. I don't even know how to spell his last name. Is it 2 Ks maybe? Let's go with that and that. Yeah, I think it might be 2 Ks. Yeah, there he is. He's signed with the Montreal Canadiens. So he's joined, what was it, Zach Hurd, I think, in Montreal? If Zach Hurd's still there even. But at 79 overall, of course, we know that. He got $915,000 for a year. So he's only there for a year. But the Montreal Canadiens have maybe a new backup goaltender. So, like I said, Harakala, pretty damn good player. Obviously, it would have been nice to bring him back, but we have too many goalies basically to run somebody like him as well. So best of luck to him in Montreal. And then what about Doig? Because Doig's been gone for us for a few years. He was in Edmonton, was playing pretty good. He probably secured the bag. He signed with the Florida Panthers. Okay, so he has joined Tuzolino in Florida, I think. Unless Tuzolino's gone by now. But he joins Florida because Florida likes to pay people. 85 overall, 29. He got a $13.27 million cap hit at 7 years. And he also has some clauses involved, which those clauses are all modified no trade clauses. So Doig is getting paid a lot of money, just like Tuzolino. So now if we go to the cap situation for Florida, I'm just going to keep my face off the screen so you guys can actually see the cap stuff. Let's look at Florida's top cap hit players, just because it's kind of funny. Look at that. Our two former guys are both getting paid to retire in Florida. A combined total of $34.89 million. The two of those guys alone. That's pretty insane. I mean, they do still have $12 million cap space, surprisingly, but that's a lot of money to tie up to two players. And the Florida Panthers also look like they're also kind of dropping off a bit too. So those two guys might end up never winning a Stanley Cup, which is interesting. Wait, did Doig win with us the Stanley Cup? I don't remember who was on our cup winning roster. Oh, he did. Okay. So he did win a Stanley Cup with us. Tuzolino, on the other hand, has never won a Stanley Cup. But he has not won a Norris still at his point in his career, even though he's making $21 million. Funny. Well, anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll take it to the season simulation. We'll see if this team can get it back to the playoffs. I think with this new head coach, we should be able to obviously simulate a little bit better, maybe even in the postseason. 66% team fit's obviously a lot better than a 57, so hopefully that makes our team simulate better. Even though last year we won the President's Trophy, I think we could definitely build off last season. Like, we didn't lose anybody. Does suck that Rick Kim is only going to be on a one-year deal, but we had to do it just based on the fact that I don't want to lose Ristolainen and Stelbitz if they decide not to call it quits soon. So let me know down below, and I'll see you guys next time.